We keeping it professional around here. Let me see if I can move us all out of the way so I can get into present mode. Yeah, present full screen. Here we go. Let's go. Present, present, present. Ah, look, it's me on a tropical vacation. Isn't that nice? That's how you know this is AI, because I haven't left this room in months. Months. All I do is work. All right, I'm gonna hide my panels and everything, and get rid of the controls so I can see you guys. So today we are learning about brand archetypes. Is anyone familiar with brand archetypes? What that means, what that looks like? Has anyone ever done a brand archetype exercise before? No. Okay, this is gonna be so much fun. So kind of a lot of people look at this like a personality test. So I want to kind of get ahead of the fact that you guys are going to be sitting here for the next 45 minutes going, so I just took a fancy personality test. What do I do with it? So I'll tell you what to do with it. So if you've taken class with me before, we've done ICAs, right? We talked about identifying our ideal clients, creating that avatar, and being able to speak to that avatar. But there's actually a step that comes before that, and it's called figuring out your brand archetype. So you know that with AI, we really try really hard to make it sound like us. But what if you don't know what us is? What if you don't know what you sound like? What if you don't know what and how you want to present yourself to your audience? This is where your brand archetype comes in. Now, tons of major companies have brand archetypes. Every major brand has a brand archetype, and we are going to kind of bump into it a little bit today. So effectively, what are brand archetypes? They are universal symbols or characters that embody specific traits. Rooted in Jungian psychology, these archetypes give your brand a distinct personality. Carl Jung is the one who came up with this, and he assigned it to people. So we all kind of fit into one of roughly 12 to 15 categories of the type of people we are. So even though we are totally snowflakes and we are all individual and perfect, we're just, also one of, we kind of fit into a couple of boxes, right? And we can kind of mix the boxes together, but effectively we all have our similarities at the end of the day. And so when you think about your different brands that you like, you can kind of, as we're going through this, think of your favorite brands. Think of Nike, think of Adidas, think of Coca-Cola, and you'll start to see where they pull their branding from and where their archetypes come from. Why this is important is that it provides a framework for consistent storytelling, emotional resonance, and market differentiation. All the fancy words to say, it allows us to connect even on a deeper level with our customers. So while we use the ICA to identify their pain points and address their pain points, we also can speak to them in a certain way that makes them feel even more so that we understand them on a deeper level. Here are our 12 brand archetypes. So as I go through them, start thinking of the brands that resonate with you. You go, oh, I totally get that here. I totally get that here. So innocent, pure, optimistic, simple, explorer, adventure, curious, freedom seeking. So I think we can think of, American brands, we're looking at like an REI type, or Patagonia is another brand that definitely fits into that explorer type. If you're a coach, you might resonate with the sage, which is wise, insightful, and knowledgeable. Hero, bold, courageous, and determined. We can think of a lot of brands that fit into that. Even Apple is one that kind of fits into that. Outlaw, rebellious, disruptive, and radical. I feel like the prime example of that is Harley Davidson, right? We are motorcycles, we are anti-establishment, right? So we are the outlaws. The magicians, transformative, visionary, and mysterious. I think we can look at OpenAI and go, okay, OpenAI, ChatGPT, we're transformative, we're visionary, we're looking toward the future. The everyman is relatable, down to earth, and dependable. So that's something you might think of when you think of your local grocery store, right? Something that's very, everyone is welcome here. We're just like you, come on in. The lover, passionate, warm, and sensual. Where's Juliet when you need her? That's definitely right up her brand, right? But something that we can also think of is maybe a floral company could also be that. We can also look at, I'm trying to think of maybe someone that is a relationship counselor could fit into that as well. Caregiver, nurturing, supportive, and compassionate. Obviously, healthcare industries tend to fall under that. Creator, innovative, imaginative, and expressive. Apple actually puts themselves under this, as well as Microsoft, because they believe that they are innovative and creators. Rulers, commanding, responsible, and organized, tend to be financials. The financial world tends to fall under there. And jester, playful, spontaneous, and fun. and there's millions of brands. Wendy's in the US is a great one. You can really see this shining through in their Twitter feed or their X feed, where they will absolutely clap back at you if you have anything to say about their burgers, which is super fun. So, why do archetypes matter? Well, here's a picture of me as a superhero. That falls into a certain archetype, right? If you've taken a class with Eve, Monty, and I, we have a superhero kind of aesthetic. And the point is we have branded ourselves using this archetype, this hero archetype, going, we are here to take you into the next level of your business. We are here to take you into the next world, and we are strong, we are capable, and you can trust us. And that's what those images portray. So that's where that comes from. So consistent messaging, creating a unified voice across all channels. When you know who you are, you can speak very confidently, right? And then sometimes this gets a little into the psychology side of, you know, who am I and why am I here and what am I all about? But brand archetypes will help you kind of figure that out. And then you can speak more consistently. Emotional connection, as I mentioned, forge deep resonant bonds with your audience. Differentiation, stand out in a crowded market with clear, authentic personality. So archetypes empower your brand to tell a compelling, memorable story. So let me go back to this other slide here. When I said coaches earlier, I said sage, right? Wise, insightful, and knowledgeable. And that's typically the one that a lot of coaches go for. And I feel like a lot of you guys are in that business, right? The coaching business. You take people through journeys and stuff. So sage is going to be the obvious one for you. But when you do something like a hero, so you combine hero and sage together, now you're doing something that is completely different than what's going on in the industry. And that's how you really start standing out. And then all of your verbiage comes from that feeling. Here's another one of me as Elphaba, because I really like Wicked. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself. And Monica was so kind to put together a GPT for us that we're going to play with here in a second. So whoever is ready to volunteer, I'm going to be calling on someone to volunteer. So start thinking about who feels brave today. But here are some questions that you can start asking yourself to get yourself thinking about what your brand archetype is. So what is your brand's core purpose beyond profit? I mean, and I like that question because obviously we're all here to make some shmoney. I'm here to do this out of the goodness of my heart, but also would love to pay for, you know, the rent would be nice. So what are you doing beyond that? What's your mission? What's your purpose? How do you want your customers to feel? We've talked about this so many times about people buy, they remember how you make them feel, not what you said or what you did, but how they felt, right? And so everything with marketing should come back to how do you want your customers to feel? And this could be, they could feel taken care of, they could feel understood, they could feel seen, they could feel that they trust you with their problems. What story does your brand tell? Again, so many different options here of what we can do. That's very personal. I love this next one. What values are non-negotiable for your brand? So when you think about these non-negotiables, I have this funny story that a friend of mine told me. Her sister was dating, and she was going on all these dates with people, and she couldn't find anyone that she liked because her list of boxes to tick was like 10 miles long. And she's like, well, he doesn't have any of these. And then finally, her sister, my best friend, said to her, what are your 5 non-negotiables? Well, he can't this, he can't this, he can't that. Okay, so that's actually your list, right? Those are the things that actually mean something to you. Everything else on this other list of what you want, it's all fluff. But when you get down to your non-negotiables, that's how you know what you're really about. So what are the non-negotiables for your brand? So for a lot of us, it could be, integrity is a non-negotiable. Being loyal to my fan base is a non-negotiable. Being authentic, being truthful and honest, those are my non-negotiables. So here we go. We want to reflect on those questions and identify keywords and themes that match these traits. And I liked using the Wicked Witch of the West as an inspo here because she, compared to Glinda, if you've seen the Wicked movie or if you're familiar with the Wizard of Oz, they both have very different archetypes and very different non-negotiables, right? Like in the movie we saw recently that Elphaba, her non-negotiable was anything that had to do with disloyalty, right? Like where there was moments where Glinda was comfortable being like, I'm gonna put me first in a couple of these scenarios. I don't want to like rock the boat too much. Elphaba was like, no, not only are we rocking the boat, we're tearing it down because what is right is what is right, and that is the most important thing to me. Okay. So here's where I want to kind of marry these two concepts together. And I think most of you have done this with me. Taking your ideal customer avatar and your archetype and putting them together. So your ICA detailing the profile of your ideal customers, your demos. And then if your archetype is your everyman, your ICA might be someone who values authenticity and community. So typically what you want to see when you're doing your brand archetype and you're comparing it to your ICA, you really want to see a lot of synergy here. I can't believe I use synergy. Ugh, that's a corporate word. It's so gross. But synergy here, you really want to see that like you and your client, you and your dream client kind of speak the same language here, that you both value the same thing. I think that a lot of times we say our customers are everyone, but they're not. Right? Our ideal customer is someone who believes what we believe and they need our services and they have a problem that we can solve, but we ultimately have the same foundation. Okay. So here's some examples of archetypes. So the everyman archetype, State Farm Insurance, Home Depot, Folgers Coffee, the everyman, right? This is just, we're just like you. Creator archetype, Apple, like I mentioned earlier, because they're innovators and they actually, when you buy an Apple product, with a card that comes with it says designed in California, which I think is a very interesting word to choose here, but speaks very, very highly to how much they've thought about their brand and what they want to convey and what they want you to feel. They don't want you to feel like you bought a computer. They want you to feel like this was designed for you. This was designed. This wasn't just slapped together in a factory. This means something, right? And so going back to their archetype, using that word design is a very intentional choice. And then Nike being the hero, which I think is just kind of a little bit obvious to all of us, yeah? So me and Santorini, a different version of me, a different archetype. She's the explorer, right? So applying your archetype to your marketing. So messaging and tone, as I mentioned earlier, will help you develop your taglines, slogans that echo your archetype. Unlock your inner magic for a magician. That one's really on the nose. It's like really on the nose. We can get a little more creative than that, but that one's really on the nose. Your visual identity. Align your colors, your fonts, your imagery with your archetype's personality. So let's think about the sage. With that image that you get when you think of the sage? You might think of like natural colors. You might think of your browns, your earth tones, all of that. That can help kind of define what your brand ends up looking like if you don't have a logo, if you don't have a website. And if you do have a website, this might be a good opportunity to think about how you want to present yourself and maybe make some changes as well. So that sage is going to look very different than the archetype of, let's say, the explorer. Explorer, immediately I think of like rich blues, greens, like very like Pirates of the Caribbean kind of like earth, like not earthy colors, but colors of the earth. And pulling that in to give a different feel to it. I also immediately, there's things that come to mind like compasses and maps and stuff, that all of these things would help shape that archetype and shape that brand. So going back to us with the superhero, when we knew we wanted to be heroes, we thought, okay, well, no one's doing this in the space, so immediately we're going to stand out, which is great, which is really what you want, right? Because everyone's industry is oversaturated. We all know that. So how do we stand out? We start combining these things, sage, hero, put it together. But for the hero, we really wanted to go with right on the nose about literally being the superhero, the people that you can come to, that trust, that you know have your back, that are going to lead you through this process. And that's when we bring in those colors. We bring in the colors of, like you saw in that picture, the blacks and the purples and the reds and the blues and all of that. Mani's image in particular was very dark and very I think her outfit was like black and charcoal and stuff, and it really spoke to this sort of power and presence to her, and that works really well when you're trusting her with things like AI, automation, that kind of stuff. And then from there, we can go into content strategy. So creating authentic stories, testimonials, social media campaigns, and using the narratives that reinforce your brand identity. So I'm going to use myself as an example here because it's easy. So Crystal McIntyre embodies the creator archetype, transforming everyday fashion into art with bold, imaginative styling and vibrant storytelling. So for those who don't know, outside of doing all of this, I am an influencer in the fashion space. And how I stand out is by making my content, my feed, very different from everyone else's, where I try and take fashion into here's what we're wearing today to here's a look, a feel, a moment that we're creating with it. In my innovative process, it sounds very self-serving. My innovative process inspires followers to embrace originality and express their unique style. But that's what I'm all about, right? When it comes to that version of me, that archetype that I'm putting forward there is someone who is wanting you to step outside your box and try something different and wear what you want to wear, and dopamine dressing and all that fun stuff. So here are different archetypes and how they are represented in different types of branding. And I use myself again for all of these because I have, if you've taken the Flux course, well, you know I have used myself in all of these because it's easy and it makes sense. So the creator, focusing on innovation, artistry, and originality. So I use a photo of myself wearing something that is very different, very out there, and really puts forth this very innovative, artistic feel. Often mixing bold designs, different styles, and encouraging the audience to embrace creativity and individuality. This next one, the lover, and again, when Juliet watches the replay, I think this is a really good one for her, emphasizes passion, sensuality, and beauty. So what do you think of when you think of those words? Well, for me, it was immediately a beautiful dress, perfume, the reds, the burgundies, the velvet textures, all of these things that come together and kind of put forth that feeling, right? That feeling that they have. So their content often exudes warmth, intimacy, and a deep appreciation for elegance and glamour. And then the ruler, so this is, again, a very different vibe, a very different feel, but there's me in a suit with the pearls and the classic white shirt, exudes authority and leadership in fashion. These influencers set trends and often position themselves as experts or tastemakers in the industry, polished, refined, and confident. So that's a different way to put forth the ruler. I think that was it. I think that's the end of my deck, you guys. Let me check the website is all about the Explorer. Another thing. That's fantastic. I love that. So now let me make sure that I went over everything I need to go over. So that was a deck. Yay, we made it through the deck. I feel like the deck is always the boring part. And now we get into the fun part. So now we're going to play with Monica's GPT, but I want to pause and see if anyone has any thoughts, feedback. Did anything resonate with you? I see a couple new faces since I started presenting. So hi, Lisa and Jose, welcome. So glad to have you here. I will be calling on someone. So if you don't volunteer, I will pick on you. And if I know you, the likelihood of me picking on you is exceptionally high. So Laura, Carol, Jill, Martin, Monty, beware. But does anyone have any thoughts, comments, or anything on what we went over? Does everything make sense? What are we feeling? Let's do a temp check. We're getting it? Yeah, Carol, come on in.
I was just thinking like personal brand versus like Nike and the different things. Like personal brand, would that be more you as a person versus or how you want to express yourself? Like what is the difference between like more like a business versus a personal brand?
So theoretically, there shouldn't be much difference in the sense that when you are your business and you are that personal brand, you want to kind of present yourself as the best version of that, right? So let's say you're a fitness coach, you want to present yourself as the fittest, healthiest version of yourself. So as a coach, the best version of you, whatever that looks like. And I'm going to touch on the authenticity just because I think that may be a thought that may be popping into people's heads as well. Is that really me? There's anyone that's ever had a job, you've had a customer face, right? There's a version of you that shows up to work that is the best version of you for that job at hand, right? Like I used to work retail when I was a kid and I had a customer face. Welcome. We're so happy to serve you. How can I help you? Things are over here and yet over here. But that doesn't mean that all the other versions of me aren't me. It means that that's how I'm showing up for that job in that moment. And I want to be the best version of myself in that moment. So we are all multifaceted people, and it doesn't necessarily mean that because we're showing up as an exaggerated and exceptional version of one part of our personality, it doesn't necessarily take away from the other parts of us. We're just choosing to highlight and exaggerate and embrace this one part of us. Now, God willing, And hopefully the part of you that is what you're putting in your business is your favorite part of you. And so that the part of you that you are most of the time. And so that kind of makes it a little easier. And when we go back to the archetypes and we look at all 12, you're going to see something that resonated, like you said immediately. Jill said, the explorer, like that immediately resonated with her. There's going to be one of those that resonates with you, and put forth more of that. So the business brand and the personal brand technically should be the same, but they're always just bigger versions of the you that you choose to give to your clients at that time. Hey, Jill.
Could I ask a follow-up question to that? So, so my when I rebranded, it's really, really personal. So there's a lot of pinks and purples and really colors that I love. Everything's really me. It's just absolutely me. And one of the things that when somebody reviewed it said was, that's not necessarily reflective of my ideal customers, who at that time were corporate types, and there's lots of swirls and femininity and stuff like that. And the majority of the corporate world are males of a certain age. And so actually, there is, like, I hear what you say about that. You've got to be authentic within that. But yeah, how much of it do we skew towards who our ideal client is at whilst leaving some of our own quirkiness out, I suppose, is what I'm saying.
Sure. So I think that and I have a friend actually that does corporate training, and her website is also very feminine, and it really did kind of repel her ideal client. So there's a version of it that has to mix in. So when we look at archetypes, maybe we're not choosing just one archetype, maybe we're choosing two archetypes and we're blending them together. So for example, I have a client right now who runs it's a TCG company and trading card game. So if you think of Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all of that, and their primary archetype is the explorer and then also the jester. And you wouldn't think necessarily that they go together, but what it does allows us to create a unique blend that speaks to their customer as the explorer, but puts forth that sassy personality that they want to have. So I would say, let's look at it and see if there's two ways that we can kind of marry these two versions of you there. Because we definitely don't want to isolate, right? And we don't want to repel our ideal clients, but we certainly don't want to not do what we want to do, right? So there's always different ways to play with it and kind of get it to feel right while still making sure that we go after the right person. I would say that if you're in corporate training, for example, and you had a very feminine website, that women would probably be the ones that would reach out to you more often. And maybe that is your ICA. Maybe your ICA is female CEOs and females in executive executive positions and director level. So I would think about, maybe, are we speaking to the right person, or are we speaking to who we want to speak to?
There's also a question here in the chat from Carol. Says, so would we think of where we want to go versus where we are at right now, or change as we grow?
So a little bit of both. And this is kind of where it gets in more into the psychology side of things, is that when you think of the saying, dress for the job you want, not the job you have, I like to feel like branding is kind of the same way. Brand for the brand you want, not the brand you have. So if I'm branding for me, well, it's me working out of the bedroom. So I don't necessarily think that me in 5 years is going to be here. And if it is, this bedroom's going to look a lot nicer, you guys. So think of where you want it to go and grow into that. And you are supposed to grow and change. But one of the main things that you want to think of is an archetype should not change. So Coke has been Coke since the beginning. And the reason Coke is Coke, and we all know Coke, is because they have stayed true to their core beliefs the entire time. And your archetype will help you define what those core beliefs are. Now, you can play within that, of course, but we really want to make sure that whatever archetype you choose or what feels right doesn't change, because it's who you are as your version of yourself in this brand. So while it can grow and change over time, your primary archetype, you'd want it to stay the same. And when you go through the questions in the GPT, you'll find that they're very introspective questions. And so they tend to hit on things about you as a person that don't change. Your beliefs in like integrity, honesty, trustworthiness, loyalty, all of those values tend to not change over time. Those subcategories can kind of change. So we can do, explorer jester, but I can also do explorer sage. I can also do explorer hero. There's different ways that we can put them together, but you really want to hang your hat on one and try and stay as consistent as possible, primarily because you don't want to confuse your customer. Right? They want to know that you are who you are. And I don't know if you guys have Olive Garden in Europe and overseas, but Olive Garden is a very terrible Italian restaurant here in America that everyone loves. And I'll tell you why everyone loves it. Because when you go there, you know what you're getting every time. Like you can try the mom and pop shops in the world, but at some point you're going to come back home, and Olive Garden is that home because their brand is very consistent. Their brand is, this is our marinara, this is our stuff, and this is who we are, and you know what you're going to get when you come to me. So having that main archetype of the everyman for them means that everyone is always welcome here. Everyone is going to feel like home here, and we're not going to kind of deviate outside of that. Is that like McDonald's and Burger King? Precisely. And the brands that have longevity are the ones that stay true to themselves. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Laurel Portier, or if you worked with Laurel Portier at all on her $7 ads. You'll notice that Laurel is Laurel, and Laurel's brand has stayed the same. When you talk to Laurel, you'll see that Laurel is just like everyone else, is multifaceted, but the brand that she puts forward is her archetype of who she truly is, which is the rebel, right? She's the outlaw, and she's very consistent with that, and she'll play within that, but she's very consistent in who she is. So we can play, but we want to make sure that that consistency stays, because it's going to give us the longevity and the trust. Because when you're all over the place, people can't trust you. You got to like stay where you're at and make tweaks within it. Does that make sense? Awesome. Any more questions before we start playing? No? Awesome. Fantastic. Is anyone ready to volunteer? Laura's got a cheeky grin on. All right, I will run us through the first time, and then when you're brave enough, you can join in. Let me figure out what window this is in. Why do I have so many?
You can play with me if you want to.
I always want to play with you, Moni. I always want to play with you.
I am brave also, Crystal, but I usually always volunteer. So this time I'm actually not, on purpose to give other people a try.
Oh, fair. Also, beautiful accent. I want you guys, everyone with an accent, please re-record my voicemail for me, because it sounds so much better than "You reached Crystal. I'm not here. Leave a message. Bye." I just want like all these beautiful accents on my voicemail. Okay, well, Moni, then why don't we run through you to get started? So let me put a link to this actually in the chat so you guys have access to this amazing GPT that Monica did for us. And thank you so much, Monica, for doing that.
Thank you, Monica.
She's got a fun little thing where you have to like check who you are, which you'll have to walk me through when you do it on your end. So there's the GPT right there you guys can play with. Let me move all my controls out of the way, and let's start. So we're going to start by clicking what is my brand archetype, and then Moni's new security feature is going to kick in. What email address would you like me to use?
Do you know the email you're using for school?
I have been using Eve's.
Or you can use Eve's, yeah.
I'll use Eve. So Eve at Vacreate. If you've ever taken class with me and Eve, you know Eve. And if Eve's watching the replay, hi girl, I'm totally stealing your email right now. So basically what this is going to do is verify that you're a member of the school, right, Moni? And that way not anyone can use this, just you guys can use this.
It even called you Eve.
It does. It's very polite. You make a good GPT, girl. Okay, so we have the 12 questions. I'm going to have it give them to me one at a time just so that we can all work through them together. Okay, what is the core purpose of your brand?
To educate and help people start AI businesses, I suppose.
Okay. What I have noticed that you can do with this, if you get to one of these questions, and by the way, AI doesn't judge you guys. So if you don't know the answer, you can ask the AI, like, what does this mean? So you can go, and actually, I'm going to do that really quick just to show you how fun this is. Please define. So if you're like, I don't know what the core purpose of my brand is, and you feel like you need a little more prompting, go, please define, and it will explain it a little bit more to you and give you some examples. So your brand's core purpose is a fundamental reason it exists beyond just making money. It is the deeper mission or impact you want to have on your customers in the world. So,
okay, in this case is to promote the new technology and then shit, this is hard. I thought it's gonna be easy. Now that you put me on the spot, I'm like, oh, that's a great one. To promote a new technology and help people implement it. I don't know. I kind of said the same thing as before.
Sure. Well, here, if I may speak for you, what I think you do is you empower people to start the businesses they've always dreamed of by teaching them new technology that allows them to grow and scale their business.
Okay, let's go with that.
Okay, so and empower people to grow, to start and grow their businesses by learning from me. So your brand is focused on innovation, education, and empowerment. So the next question, how do you want your customers to feel when they interact with your brand? Think about the emotions: confident, inspired, safe.
Yeah, I definitely want them to feel inspired and empowered.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So you see the keywords it's already coming back. It's already coming back with transformation, growth, forward-thinking solutions. So you can tell that it's already like referring back to the 12 archetypes and looking for those words to get everything to match up. What values are most important to your brand? Trust, adventure, innovation, luxury, creativity, authenticity. So
I would say innovation and authenticity.
Perfect. And if you guys, well, you guys know, you've been working with Monty for a while. Innovation means they're always pushing boundaries, as she does, and authenticity shows that you're real, transparent, and true to your mission. That nails her to a T, I think, personally. If your brand were a person, how would you describe their personality? So we have bold, visionary, nurturing, rebellious, wise, playful,
Adventurous.
adventurous. Okay. Give me two more, if you can.
Bold and visionary.
Bold and visionary. Your brand sounds like a trailblazer. Ooh, I love that word. Fearless and exploring new ideas, taking bold steps and shaping the future. What story does your brand tell? Think about the journey you want to take your audience on. Are you helping them break free from limitations, master new
This
skills?
is all these three. Break free from limitation, master new skills, and embrace a new way of thinking.
Perfect. Then let's just grab all of these.
You just answered that for me this time.
Yeah. Here we go. So these are our non-negotiables.
Transparency and authenticity and loyalty.
Love it. Let me spell that correctly. Okay, solid foundation. So how does your brand respond when faced with challenges? Do you push forward fearlessly, adapt strategically, rally your community, or take a step back to reassess?
Adapt strategically.
It's a little soul bearing, isn't it? That's fun. Smart approach. Strategic adaptation means your brand is resilient, forward-thinking, and solution-oriented. What type of relationship do you aspire to build with your audience? Do you want to be a mentor, a leader, collaborator, friend?
I want to be a collaborator, I think.
You can be multiple things. You can be a collaborator, you can be a mentor.
I don't want to be a mentor and a leader. That's too much pressure.
Perfect. All right, a collaborator.
I'll go with collaborator. Okay, yeah.
Partnership, co-creation, and shared success. You grow with your audience, not just for them. How do you define success for your brand? Is it impact, growth, influence, customer transformation?
Growth and influence.
So remember, as you're going through this on your own later, you guys, if none of those words resonate with you, just ask it to define, and it'll give you some more if you need some little prompting just to kind of get your mind going. Okay, and what makes your brand unique in your industry? So what sets you apart from competitors? Is it approach, perspective, expertise, the way you connect with your audience?
I think it's predominantly perspective and how I connect with my audience.
Okay. That's a powerful differentiator. I agree. Your unique perspective and authentic connection make your brand stand out as trusted, reliable, and forward-thinking. Which adjectives best capture your brand's essence?
Please explain.
So it's taking a little bit of the information that we've given it so far and giving you some words that it feels like might resonate with you.
Okay, so I would probably go with empowering, authentic, and innovative.
Great. Now, what well-known brands or public figures inspire you?
Apple, definitely. OpenAI. Steve Jobs.
Awesome.
Do I need to go with more?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
This is our last question. So from here, we should be able to get a really nice look at what our brand archetype is going to be. So this goes back to an earlier question of moving, and when I talked about combining. So we have creator with strong explorer influence. So your creator is driven. Your brand is driven by innovation, originality, a desire to shape the future. You empower others to break free from limitations, embrace new ways of thinking. Like Apple and Steve Jobs, you focus on big ideas, visionary thinking, and authentic connection. The explorer industry influence encourages you to, or you challenge norms and push boundaries with an adventurous, bold perspective. Your approach is about collaboration and discovery rather than dictating a single path. So, how to express this in your brand, your messaging, your design, customer experience. And then you have your strengths and your challenges, balancing big ideas with practicality, making complex innovations feel accessible. Would you say that this feels aligned with your brand? Does this feel right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to say yes. So now it's going to give you some ideas on how you can start implementing this, whether it's refining your brand story, your design and aesthetic, your messaging strategy, community engagement, And so now it's going to basically go into telling you how you can use this. And so what I like to do from here, and this kind of goes into a longer, let me check the time. We got 15 minutes left. This kind of goes into a bigger thing where we can really get into like colors, we can get into aesthetic, we can get into like logo design. There's a lot that we can do with this information. But one of the fun things I want to leave you guys with is I would ask it to say, I would love to see a mood board that reflects these archetypes. And basically what that'll do, and mood boards is a whole other class, but what this will effectively do is use DALL-E to give you a mood board, which is basically a series of images, kind of a vibe of what it thinks based on what you've given it, what would work for your brand, whether it's colors, images, typography. And again, we can really deep dive into that in another class, but just showing you guys what this can do and why this is relevant. And this is right up your alley, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of blacks and, yeah, because I'm into simplicity and, just basic colors and all that. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we can take this and we can say, so let's play one more time. Would you like a tagline, a slogan? Like give me something for it to do that we can use these things to give
And
you
let's go with a tagline. That would be interesting to see.
And it's is it the AI business?
It's AI business builders.
One more time?
AI business builders?
Builders, that's what it is, builders. Okay. And so now we have a couple of tagline ideas. I think these are pretty run of the mill, so I would challenge it to be a little more creative. I would also feed it your ICA and see if it can come up with something a little more creative. So from here, that's what I would do is I would say, here's my ICA, pop that information in, and now we're going to create social media content or a newsletter or website content that speaks to my ICA from the perspective of my archetype. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stop share because I don't want to go over time. Let's see here. I think you are teaching people how to use AI in a way they understand. Thank you. So we have about 10 minutes left. Does anyone have any thoughts, questions, all of that? Laura had to bump off, sadly, so hopefully she'll see this. We hope you feel better. But does anyone have any thoughts, any confusion maybe, any thoughts on how to implement? I'm here for the next 10, 15 minutes, whatever you guys need.
So would you, so I think I misunderstood. I thought this was the thing you did before your ICA, or would you do it kind of like parallel to it? Because you then use the ICA at the end. So you would use that, you would do that, then you would do your ICA, and then you would bring those two together to start generating assets out of that. Is that right?
Correct. Yep, exactly. And this is especially good for people that want to take their branding to the next level, or they want to get really clear on everything. You can actually get really good output for social media when it comes to just using the archetype. But when you can bring in that ICA component, when we start talking about pain points, dreams, aspirations, all of those things, then we can start talking to it from a really specific way. Which is the voice that is created through figuring out what that archetype is. And then also helps with the website design, also helps with logo design and putting forth that feeling. So that when it all kind of, in my mind, I like to think of it as a bunch of orbs that are floating and there's lines connecting them, that the archetype connects to the ICA and that connects to what our design looks like, that connects to our messaging, that, so it all kind of is a big spider web. Of things that all tend to work together to create kind of one cohesive experience for the customer at the end of the day. And so ideally, if you guys are interested, what I'd love to do is turn this into like maybe once a month, we go into the next phase of this, because it is part of a bigger thing, right? Of making your brand look a certain way and getting your messaging right and getting your marketing right. All the way down to, so I'm taking a client through this right now, and they said, well, literally, what do I do with this? This is great. I'm so happy to know that I have an ICA and a brand archetype, but what's the point? Well, think about it when you have people on your staff. Maybe you're hiring your first person and you want them to represent your company in a way that makes the most sense and will give you the best return on your investment in them as an employee. Teaching them who the company is as a person gives them someone to hang their hat on when they're talking to the customer that they're dealing with. They know who they're supposed to be, they know what they're representing, they know what our values are, and then they now know how to talk to the client because we've identified their pain points. So we can use it in trainings, we can use it in sales process, we can use it in marketing, we can use it, right, like I said, color scheme. There's so many ways that these foundational items can be implemented. And while it feels slightly abstract now, I think as we move through this process of branding, we can start seeing all the different ways that it will help, cement what you're building into something that has a lot of legs and is really long lasting.
Can I ask another question? Sorry, I've got a lot of questions.
My gosh, please.
Yeah, so I was wondering how much is based on the prompting behind it, and how much it just like so bringing up the questions, I get that's you've obviously written prompt to do that. But at what point does the prompt stop and you're just having a conversation with the AI itself, or is everything prompted? Is it a really, really detailed, like prompted to the nth degree? Does that make sense?
Kind of. I think I'm understanding correctly. So the GPT gets you to the point where you get your archetype out, and then because it's based on foundational psychology by Carl Jung, it knows that's what the archetypes are, because it's just established information that the AI knows. And then at that point, you are just having a conversation with it. But once you've identified your archetype, those are things that you can use in other GPTs. So if you're using it in just a regular GPT, and you can say, this is, I'm Jill, this is my brand, and this is my archetype is X and Y, you're very likely your AI is going to know what that is, because it's a very standard thing that's used in branding, and you can go and use it in any different way that you like, whether it's to create your marketing materials or training materials or whatever you need.
Cool, thanks.
Miss Carol, what you got?
It's me and Jill. We have a lot of questions.
I'm here for it.
I'm just thinking, like, I am in corporate, but that is not my business. Like, I have a day job as well.
Yeah.
So when Jill is talking about how she loves, like, maybe more like spiritual thing, or more like she's more colorful than like corporate is.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that if I was going to, like, I would think about brand colors being corporate if I was like, that would connect with me. So I see, like, not that it's for Jill, but will it be like a mismatch if you have someone, like, if they focus too much? Because I have a client as well, like, she loves different things, like maybe more like she says, like, she loves foxes and stuff like that. So and like Alice in Wonderland and stuff like that. But can you be like too focused on yourself and then don't think about who you actually are going to work with? Like, how is the balance there? Like, do you think about that when you are doing this, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, like, we're all here to make money. And so I think that thinking of beyond what we do and beyond who we are, that our customers have to resonate with that. And so when you are not, there is a balance of being authentic to who you are and attracting in a business framework.
And who you want to attract. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, there's a version of me that's a mom that has a stained sweatshirt and sweatpants and stuff, and I am not going to show up to a client like that, because that's not who I want to attract. I want to attract people that are corporates, small businesses, whatever. And so I need to dress for the part, right? So there's a little bit of how that would work. I would say, like, in a fashion perspective, I'm just going to use it because it's top of mind right now, is that let's say Jill loves the feminine colors, but she wants to work with corporate clients. So instead of choosing a black suit, maybe she's choosing like a really pretty pale lilac suit. So she's still giving that corporate feel. She's still giving the serious feel in the manner of the suit while using the colors that make sense for who she is as a person. So you don't want to necessarily betray who you are, but you also want to make sure that you're know the rules before you break them, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. And making sure that we are true to ourselves while making sure that we are here to serve a certain person. We're here to serve a certain client, and there's a manner of expectation that comes along with that. I know it's not the most popular thing to say. We all want to,
Yeah.
like, be authentic to who we are, but that's great. Just know that
Yeah.
your ICA may not resonate with that, and you have to figure out if that trade-off is worth it for you.
Yeah. So would you then maybe, like you had in my head, I'm already thinking ChatGPT or GPTs while I'm talking, Monica.
Yep.
But like when you then have the information from the ideal client, could you then just do more like, what type of brand archetype is my ideal client, so that you can see if you're kind of aligned?
Absolutely. If you know enough about your ICA to run them through a brand archetype, why not? Absolutely, why not?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
another layer, another component to this, which the next step is, now that we have our ICA, or now that we have our archetype, we go into mood boards, and mood boards will really help us figure out and really, like, narrow down what we want the brand identity to look like. And that helps also refine everything. So we start thinking of it from who our brand archetype is into who we want to speak to, and what imagery, what fonts, what graphic design elements tend to start to resonate and all come together in one. And then we start parsing it out into, this all comes down to even picking the right fonts. There's so really, clearly I'm very passionate about this because I can go on about it forever, but it really does, so much of it comes down to picking these elements. But the next step, if you do want to play with it, is I would say go on Pinterest and make a board that's literally a mood board, and start pinning images that resonate with you. Start pinning graphic design elements that resonate with you, fonts that resonate with you. And it doesn't have to make sense. It could be a texture, it could be a picture of a plant, it could be whatever. That was the point of me showing those different versions of me in AI. Because if I'm looking at Crystal through the lens of the hero, well, I know that I like the rich purples and the black and all of that. But if I'm looking at it as Crystal the Everyman, maybe Crystal the Everyman's hanging out in a kitchen with a cup of coffee and she's very approachable, right? So that's where the next level of this with the Pinterest board comes into play, with really figuring out what that branding looks like. I would love to dress you, Jill, by the way. That would be so much fun. I'd live for it. The gentlemen are very quiet. They're either thinking they don't get it, or they're bored.
When you were talking about corporate, Carol, I was thinking, and especially this is so true for men, because women can wear basically anything and still be corporate. But with guys, they have to look corporate, but they want to show personalities. And if you guys have walked into, younger corporate worlds, you'll see that the socks, and the socks specifically, are whatever they want. Like, they're like superhero socks or Star Wars socks or something like that. So they're showing their personalities like this. It's kind of like, I'm dressed like the world should see me in corporate, but here's my personality. Oh, here's Andy with his fun socks.
Yes,
Louis sucks. Corporate.
Big fan. Big fan.
Big fan too.
Yeah. So Carol,
Yeah,
if you have a client that is, think about, I want to serve, I want to work with C-suite, like CEOs, but I'm a flower girl. How are you going to combine these things where you show professional, but somewhere in there you can kind of slot your flower girl thing?
yeah. I'm very not flower girls.
Oh no, I'm talking about that client that you
Yeah,
had, you
yeah,
said
yeah.
Alice in Wonderland and all that.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
can you show that part of, her true personality while, making your clients and prospect feel okay with how you look, for example, or how your brand looks?
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think like in corporate you can like see like we have like a very big company, like it's all over the world, and you can just see like the different levels, like the everyday employees versus the leaders, like going up. You can see like they go ends up in suits at the top. So it's just you can almost see the level of where they are, like what type of department, like level of work they're doing.
For sure. Martin, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I turn up to these sessions because this sort of stuff means almost nothing to me. I have no desire to think about what I'm wearing, what colors are, all that sort of stuff. Monica designs bits and pieces that are techie and it get me really excited. And I'm like, oh my God, that's fantastic. And I really almost hate this sort of stuff, but I need a crystal in my life because I recognize that I really don't like this sort of stuff, but I know it's important. So I would love, like, if you're doing more sessions to come to them. I'm still going to hate them probably, but I need to be open to them because otherwise, I will never progress in this part of the business world.
I think that I love that you said that, and I think that's actually something that a lot of people can relate to. And I'm going to pick on Monica for a second too, because I think she would, if I hadn't gone this deep into it, she'd be like, "This is another fluff piece." And just if you don't know how to implement it, it can be right. It's just like I said when I first started, I said this is going to feel like I'm giving you guys a personality test and a personality quiz, and it's going to feel like you're reading Cosmo magazine, and I'm an archetype, I'm an explorer. But the truth is that when you can create the feeling around the brand, that is really what gives it legs, and it lends itself to extend beyond you. Like if you think of the brands, like there's whether we like it or not, we're attracted to certain branding and we're attracted to certain messaging that resonates with us on a deeper level, and that's what makes you loyal to certain brands. Like the fact that Monica is a very simplistic, stripped down version of it is what attracted you to what she does to begin with. Because if I had been giving you the same information Monica was, but I did it my way, there's no way in hell you would have given me a chance, right? Because I'm over here with a bedazzled microphone. Like I'm just not. So that brand that she's established, it speaks to you. So thinking of your own business, we want to figure out that what that means and what that looks like for you and how we can attract that right client for them. Money, you waving?
No, Jose has to leave.
Oh.
So I said goodbye.
Oh, thanks for hanging out. It was nice to meet you.
But
Bye. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
But yeah, Martin, like you've seen me how I dress. Like I couldn't care less. I have 20 black shirts and and this navy one that I just picked in the dark. And but our brand, and that's what I'm thinking. Like I'm not seasoned or professional in brand creation or anything, but what I'm thinking is because Crystal said we like certain brands and we like certain messages and we like certain of that. So you kind of have to use what Crystal is teaching to not so much to dress yourself, but to dress your brand. And I'm thinking, especially because I looked at what it was suggesting to help me with, and one of them was like messaging and storytelling. Like I'm a terrible storyteller because yeah, because like to me stories are like, here's what happened, 2 sentences, that's my story. So you know, maybe I can use something, you know, this GPT to show me how to tell stories better, how to connect people with, how to connect two people with my stories, rather than, you know, two sentences that are just the facts. You know, how do I make my brand more interesting? Because like it or not, and that's probably aimed at me mostly, stories sell.
And here's an example, and I can't believe my husband is being this level of useful right now. My husband recently started drinking this product. It's called Liquid Death. I don't know if you guys have seen this. You know what this is? Sparkling water flavored with lime. That's what it is. That's all it is. Sparkling water flavored with lime. But what they have done by identifying their ICA, which is dude bros like my husband who lift and drive trucks and blah, 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 and he was in the army and all of those things, right? They identified who he was. They knew who they wanted to be, the outlaw, and they created this design to speak to him. It's sparkling water with lime. I could give you the same drink in a fruity girly can and he would not give it a chance. But because this speaks to him, he does, and he loves it. And now I have 5 cases of this crap in my house. You would think beer, right? Exactly. Because men don't drink sparkling water with a hint of lime in it. But my husband will drink, he drinks 10 of these a day. So this is a story that they're telling, right? This is just, this can on its own is a story. The font is a story. The font speaks to the outlaw. This speaks to the outlaw. It's just sparkling water with lime. But what they have done by identifying ICA, even the tagline, you guys are going to love this. This is the most American thing you'll ever hear. Murder your thirst. Can you smell the America on this can? This
Murder your what?
Murder your thirst. If this is like a prime example of knowing your customer, speaking to your customer, and making a decision as a company who your archetype is, this can is it. And I remember when I first met my husband, I used to tell him, you know, I said, you think you make so many independent choices, and you think you get it. So I've been in marketing for 20 years, so all of this is like a psychological game, you know. And I remember him picking up a can of was Mountain Dew, but it was like it was an army patterned Mountain Dew, and it had a guy on it with like a helmet on it, like in World War II. And he's like, well, this is my favorite Mountain Dew. It's the same Mountain Dew, it's just in a different can. But why do you buy that one? Because you were in the army and it resonates with you. Because they chose that flavor, that version of Mountain Dew to speak to you. That's all it is. It's the same product. So this is where all that stuff comes into play and gets really interesting to me anyway. This is kind of stuff I get really excited about, because a product is a product until you package it to speak to a certain person. Then all of a sudden you get dude bros buying it by the case. So interesting stuff, at least to me.